Bhagat Singh was an Indian socialist revolutionary whose two acts of dramatic violence against the British in India execution at age 23 made him a folk hero of the Indian independence movement. Born on 28 September 1907, Banga. Died on March 23, 1931, Lahore. Cause of death: execution by hanging. Movement: Indian independence movement. Criminal charge: murder of John Saunders and Chanan Singh. In December 1928, Bhagat Singh and an associate, Shivaram Rajguru, fatally shot a 21-year-old British police officer, John Saunders, in Lahore, Punjab, mistaking Saunders, who was still on probation, for the British police superintendent, James Scott, whom they had intended to assassinate. They believed Scott was responsible for the death of a popular Indian nationalist leader Lala Lajpat Rai, by having ordered a lathi-charge in which Rai was injured and 2 weeks thereafter died of a heart attack. As Saunders exited a police station on a motorcycle, he was felled by a single bullet fired from across the street by Rajguru, a marksman. As he lay injured, he was then shot at close range several times by Singh, the post-mortem report showing 8 bullet wounds. By having ordered a lathi-charge in which Rai was injured and 2 weeks thereafter died of a heart attack. As Saunders exited a police station on a motorcycle, he was felled by a single bullet fired from across the street by Rajguru, a marksman. As he lay injured, he was then shot at close range several times by Singh, the post-mortem report showing 8 bullet wounds. Another associate of Singh, Chandrasekhar Azad, shot dead an Indian police head constable, Chanan Singh, who attempted to give chase to Singh and Rajguru as they fled after having escaped. Singh and his associates used pseudonyms to publicly announce avenging Lajpat Rai's death, putting up prepared posters that they altered to show Saunders as their intended target. Singh was thereafter on the run for many months, and no convictions resulted at the time. Surfacing again in April 1929, he and another associate, Batukshwar Dutt, set off 2 homemade bombs inside the Central Legislative Assembly in Delhi. They showered leaflets from the gallery on the legislators below, shouted slogans, and then allowed the authorities to arrest them. The arrest, and the resulting publicity, brought to light Singh's complicity in the John Saunders case. Awaiting trial, Singh gained much public sympathy after he joined fellow defendant Jatin Das in a hunger strike, demanding better prison conditions for Indian prisoners, the strike ending in Das's death from starvation in September 1929. Singh was convicted and hanged in March 1931, aged 23. Bhagat Singh became a popular folk hero after his death. Jawaharlal Nehru wrote about him, "Bhagat Singh did not become popular because of his act of terrorism but because he seemed to vindicate, for the moment, the honor of Lala Lajpat Rai, and through him of the nation." He became a symbol. The act was forgotten, the symbol remained, and within a few months each town and village of the Punjab, and to lesser extent in the rest of northern India, resounded with his name. In still later years, Singh, an atheist and socialist in life, won admirers in India from among a political spectrum that included both communists and right-wing Hindu nationalists. Although many of Singh's associates, as well as many Indian anti-colonial revolutionaries, were also involved in daring acts and were either executed or died violent deaths, few came to be lionized in popular art and literature to the same extent as Singh. Bhagat Singh's early life. Bhagat Singh was a Sandhu Jat, born in 1907 to Kishan Singh and Vidyavati at Chowk No. 105 GB, Banga village, Jaranwala Tehsil in the Lulpur district of the Punjab province of British India. His birth coincided with the release of his father and 2 uncles, Ajit Singh and Swaran Singh, from jail. His family members were Hindus and Sikhs, some had been active in Indian independence movements, others had served in Maharaja Ranjit Singh's army. His ancestral village was Kotkarkalan, near the town of Banga, India in Nawanshar district now renamed Shahid Bhagat Singh Nagar of Punjab. His family was politically active. His grandfather, Arjun Singh followed Swami Dayananda Saraswati's Hindu reformist movement, Arya Samaj, which had a considerable influence on Bhagat. His father and uncles were members of the Gadar party, led by Kartar Singh Sarabha and Har Dayal. Ajit Singh was forced into exile due to pending court cases against him, while Swaran Singh died at home in Lahore in 1910 following his release from jail. Unlike many Sikhs of his age, Singh did not attend the Khalsa High School in Lahore. His grandfather did not approve of the school officials' loyalty to the British government. He was enrolled instead in the Dayanand Anglo-Vedic High School, an Arya Samaji institution. The Arya Samaj philosophy greatly influenced him throughout his life. In 1919, when he was 12 years old, Singh visited the site of the Jallianwala Bagh massacre hours after thousands of unarmed people gathered at a public meeting had been killed. When he was 14 years old, he was among those in his village who welcomed protesters against the killing of a large number of unarmed people at Gurudwara Nankana Sahib on 20th of February, 1921. Singh became disillusioned with Mahatma Gandhi's philosophy of non-violence after he called off the non-cooperation movement. Gandhi's decision followed the violent murders of policemen by villagers who were reacting to the police killing 3 villagers in the 1922 Charai Char incident. Singh joined the Young Revolutionary Movement and began to advocate for the violent overthrow of the British government in India. In 1923, Singh joined the National College of Arts in Lahore, where he also participated in extracurricular activities like the Dramatics Society. In 1923, he won an essay competition set by the Punjab Hindi Sahitya Sammelan, writing on the problems in the Punjab. Inspired by the Young Italy movement of Giuseppe Mazzini, he founded Indian socialist youth organization Naujawan Bharat Sabha in 1926. He also joined the Hindustan Republican Association, which had prominent leaders such as Chandrasekhar Azad, Ram Prasad Bismil, and Shahid Ashfaq Ali Khan. A year later, to avoid an arranged marriage, Singh ran away to Kanpur. In a letter he left behind, he said, "My life has been dedicated to the noblest cause, that of the freedom of the country. Therefore, there is no rest or worldly desire that can lure me now." And briefly for Veer Arjun newspaper, published in Delhi. He often used pseudonyms, including names such as Balwant, Ranjit, and Voroi. Singh was criticized both by his contemporaries, and by people after his death, for his violent and revolutionary stance towards British as well as his strong opposition to the pacifist stance taken by Gandhi and Indian Nation Congress. The methods he used to convey his message, such as shooting Saunders and throwing non-lethal bombs, stood in stark contrast to Gandhi's non-violent methodology. However, Gandhi condemned active violence, but he still considered him to be a great patriot and martyr. If you learned something new, then like this video and subscribe to our channel. Click left or right to see other video. Thanks for watching.